Welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast. Here is Monir El Azzouzi from easymedicaldevice.com. And today we will talk about how to certify some software like calculators, risk scores, and a lot of other small things that a lot of manufacturers are also willing to certify. And is this a medical device? What do we need exactly, etc., etc. So we'll try really to help you on those kind of small scripts or devices or software that can maybe be a medical device or not. And for that, I have with me Cesare Magri from For Better Devices. So Cesare, welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast.
Hi, Moni. Thank you for having me again.
Great.
Hi, everyone.
And so Cesare, we'll try to, because we receive a lot of time those questions about some of those kind of scripts and calculator and risk score, etc. I know there are also some borderline manual that are existing talking about that and a lot of explanation, but I wanted really to make it a summary here about that. But before that, maybe you can just share a bit more about yourself, a small introduction, and then we can start with the questions.
Okay, I'm Cesare Magri. I'm the CEO for Better Devices. We are a consulting company for analyzing data of all types and to help this data get you to certification or improve your marketing.
And you are also having a software. Also, you are also doing some software.
We are also creating the software that helps making your clinical evaluation process much faster and more effective. We are presenting at the Medica 2023, so come and visit us, and we will show it to you.
Exactly. Yeah, you can go to Medica, and you'll see all the. I mean, if you go to Medica, I mean, he will be there. So I will be also there. So I will maybe also check and have the demo also of the system and see how this is working. Okay, so Cesare, as said, we'll try to explain a bit more about those kind of small software that for maybe some people they say, oh, is it really a medical device? And maybe the answer is yes or no. And just before we record, you called them clinical decision tools. So what is that? What are we talking about exactly?
Yeah, so there is not one word that fits for all for these tools. They go from the small risk calculators to the bigger software that are called clinical decision support systems. So there is a big spectrum of this type of software that the software or function or calculator that is available in medicine and on the market. And that's sometimes also a bit of the tricky part of the field, because some of these tools, they're really, really tiny. So it's like if you see them and you think, oh, this is really completely stupid. Why should I even bother dealing with it or certifying something like this? And why does there is a borderline guideline that asks me to certify something that I honestly can be calculated by hand by my
an Excel tool also by whatever we have.
It's a sum. It's like, those tests. If this has 2 points, 3 points, then you sum up and then you get a score. And the problem is that sometimes the simplicity of the interface of these tools does not show the big work that was done behind. So there's always been, before AI and well before apps and so on, there's always been this need in the medical field to have tools that help guiding decision and that are fast to use. Sometimes it's a matter of really little time. You have a patient with stroke, you have to take some decision, give this medication, don't give this medication. You want a tool that it's easy to use, streamlined in terms of questions, and that can guide you in a sensible way. And the point is that this simplicity actually hides a big complexity, because it's very, very hard, to summarize in 4 questions a complicated medical field, a complicated patient situation, and then drive the decision. It's really not trivial. So even the easiest tools that you find in the literature, the Framingham, the chatbots, they've been first they developed them on huge databases that are available. So that's let's say what in machine learning would be the test and so the development and testing, and then you will find, I don't know, tens of articles that prospectively check the validity of these tools. That shows how cautious doctors and the medical field is with this kind of decision making. And then obviously one has now the opportunity to create apps and the software, big software, aggregating lots of data. So what people are drawing into is, okay, let's take and combine all these tools together. Let's make a big thing, or let's develop an AI that tries to guide the same decision. And what the regulators are trying to impose is that the same type of scrutiny that was applied in the medical field for the tools in the past is now to be applied for these new tools that get developed. That's the idea. Okay.
So mainly here, when we talk about calculators or risk scores or whatever, this is a software. There is an algorithm. We are putting an input. It's giving us an output. The input, the what is in the middle is like a black box for some people. The one that created that knows what is inside, but for the other, it's more a black box. So the idea here is like, yeah, it's maybe not a complex software with a lot of decision making, a lot of algorithm or whatever. It's just maybe one, which is a small, simple equation. But at the end, as you are making that available to multiple people, you have also to guarantee that what you have done is correct. And the regulation is looking at that as a software because it's having really the definition of a software. So mainly this is, as you've said, something that some people may think, oh, it's ridiculous. We have just a calculator. It's like one equation that you can find in any literature. You can even take this equation and create an Excel file. But what if, for example, let's say that there is no regulation for this kind of things? What can be the risks mainly for the users or for the patients, for the people that will be using that blindly because they will think, oh, it's great, it's a calculator for that. So they use that blindly. What can be the risk if they use that without a product being CE certified mainly?
Well, it depends. It depends on the score. So it depends on what the population is, what the score promises to achieve, and so it can be from very little impact to gigantic impact, literally determining life or death if it deals with a patient at a high risk. And unfortunately, there's this idea also that the more the better sometimes. So the idea is, okay, well, I'm now going to create, the doctors like using the chat box. And let's take 100 of these tools and put them all together in one thing and outputting all the output of this. And it's hard sometimes to understand that this is not necessarily the case, especially in a field that tries to achieve simplification, because the medical field try to, as I said, to find the minimum number of questions, the easiest way to present them, and the easiest way to get the computation. It's not necessary that then you suddenly put everything together and this is better for the doctor, because it might be overwhelmed with this type of information. We'll get also to this afterwards.
Exactly. So in terms of now the person that is creating this kind of calculator, because I can wake up in the morning and I find in the literature that here is an equation to calculate, I don't know, some score for sepsis or some score for whatever pain or etc. I say, okay, let me create an application, a mobile application or a software or just a website where you can put your questions, as you said, and you get the output, etc. For me as the creator of that, am I in trouble first if I'm not CE marked, if I don't have a CE mark? And what is the responsibility I will have if I put that on the market without CE marking mainly?
Okay, so if you check on the internet, it's full of websites that exactly. Implement the calculators. So I think that many of these websites, they go the lengths of saying, okay, we practically give you an implementation of a chatbot, but I mean, we are not a medical software. They try to put some disclaiming in this, and I think that in this, and so they are not. And they are not related to a specific data acquisition system and so on. So I think it's a bit borderline, but it's still fine. But if you now decide to take to implement even a small score, a simple score in an app, and that is gonna be used by a user or a doctor with specific patient data, then you are automatically a medical device. You're gonna be you're gonna need certification. And let's say the truth, the point is that I don't think we will ever see an app that just is going to implement one chapter score, you know, and that's it. And that's usually this type of software, this type of application. They want to go a step farther. They want to create some more added value by improving the presentation, by integrating this with a new data acquisition system, by inserting alarms. And so let's say, so even if you use something that's very well validated, you have always to consider what are the gaps that you created in your software. Because let's say with 99.9% probability, these apps aim to create something new off top of what is existing. But even if you were to just now implement the app linked to a database for an existing score, that will make your medical device class 2A, and you would have to get through certification. I want to say one thing here. I mean, it sounds really hard. Okay, so some manufacturers are really taken aback from this. They say, how can it be? I'm doing something so trivial. But if once you start digging in how the medical field has dealt with this type of tools in the past, you will probably understand why also the regulators are asking for that, because it's really so getting to this simple thing, it's an immense amount of work for the doctors.
Exactly. And I had the experience with some manufacturers or some people, because mainly they were not manufacturers sometimes, that called me and said, oh, MHRA was visiting my website and they find out that I have something that looks like a medical device. And now they ask me to provide my declaration of conformity, my CE certificate, my whatever, etc. And they ask me, what should I do now? And when you are looking, you say, yes, it's a calculator. Yes, you are claiming something on your website that your calculator can do. Then yes, they are looking at that, and or they are shutting down the website, or they are trying to find a way to make it keep
in that case, they really have to make clear that it's you know, it's for training purposes only. You know, it's like to
research training.
It shouldn't be used with any actual patient data. It doesn't have any clinical benefit, and it doesn't have any benefit at all. It's just an example of implementation of a tool. Because I mean, sometimes it's also to consider, sometimes some of these scores are even copyrighted. So it's not just the content of the question that matters. It's even how you present them. I mean, there are type of lines or graphic PROs that are copyrighted, and you have to buy the copyrighted version to present them exactly the way they were validated. And because any other presentation is not validated, clinically validated anymore. So it's a very careful field.
Exactly, yeah. And we have also so now, like, we understand that, yeah, you have really to consult to verify if this is a medical device or not. Now I know it's a medical device and I want to certify it manually. So first, is every calculator certifiable? And how can I certify a calculator? Is just the use of a formula that I find on the internet sufficient, or should I provide some kind of more evidence? So what is your advice in terms of how to certify then those calculators or risk score?
Yeah, so that's the case that we also had together. Okay, so it's not that any piece of code that implements one of these tools automatically becomes a medical device. So a medical device, it's sometimes there's this idea, I have a function that becomes a medical device. No, a medical device is something that goes from that can be integrated in the clinical workflow, so that can as an input, a processing, and an output in a certain environment, and so on. So all the specification of the intended purpose. And only when you have this system, and this system it's a software that implements these scores, then you do have a medical device. So if you have a small piece of software that you are selling as a library, as an API, I don't know, in some form, to some to other people, so that they can implement it in the medical system, then you don't have automatically a medical device. It's like a piece that you provide for the development. It's going to be the manufacturer who integrates this piece of code into their system, who will have to take care of ensuring that the final system is working effectively, because there's no other way. If you don't have any output, if you don't have any input, there is nothing to validate, that can be validated. It's just it's like a motor without the wheels. Okay,
exactly.
So you cannot go anywhere.
Hey, just a second. Do you need a EU, Swiss or UK representative? Then choose Easy Medical Device. We can represent you and also become your importer. Contact us at eo@easymedicaldevice.com. So it's what we talked about, interface. There should be a user that is providing some data somewhere. The data will go to this calculator. The calculator will provide the output, and the output will be displayed to the kind of user to get that. So as you said, the calculator is maybe one component of all this system, but without the rest, it's not a full system. It's just an engine without the wheel or without the
exactly, because I mean, doctors know very well that it's not just what you compute that matters. It's not just the number, but it's also how you present the number, when you present the number. So it's how you ask the input, in which form, even technically. So all these matters for a medical system to work. It's not just the raw computation. Sometimes there is this ultra focus on the computation, but if you want to check the safety and effectiveness of medical device software, you have to consider the rule. And so unless you have this rule, you cannot consider it. One note on this: this doesn't mean that you have to implement everything. Okay, so you could also say, I now give you this function that it's applicable as a plugin in an existing system. In the moment you say that, you are defining the interfaces. And so it becomes, again, your responsibility to verify that the system works, not the manufacturer of the plugin.
Because system, you say, okay? it's like me saying I have an instrument that you can clean and disinfect or sterilize only on this kind of machine or this kind of process with this kind of thing. So I give the instructions mainly of how to use that. So then I have to verify that what I'm giving as an instruction is correct. So the same, yeah, if you say you plug it on this system, then you have to verify the interoperability with the system.
I mean, it's a detail, but it's like, you know, if you create a motor and BMW buys your motor to put in their car, then they have to certify that the car works. If you instead start selling your motor on the internet, saying my motor works with these cars, then it's your responsibility to show that the motor works with this car. There's these little details. So just this means that you don't always have to implement the whole system, but you have to specify the whole system. If you are not in the position of specifying the whole system, then you just have a piece of a wool that you cannot certify. This is sometimes it's hard, a bit hard to understand, but there are many of these questions. So I'm providing this. Do I have to make the certification myself? And often the answer is no. The final user will have to do that.
So if we have, for example, a calculator or something, a risk score that is for sepsis, let's say for sepsis in the hospital, to say you have some sepsis risk at all. Do I need some clinical data, like a clinical evaluation, a clinical investigation, all those things? Or is there a way to use, for example, the fact that it was used like that since 20 years and everything is fine? So what is the strategy for companies that are having those calculators?
It's hard to make a strategy that fits all. So it really depends on the medical purpose, the class of the device, what is the level of validation of the existing tool, what is the level of addition that the manufacturer has done on this existing tool. Because, I mean, you know, in some cases, you might also think of using, for example, Article 6110, but that depends really on the system. Maybe you are not getting to any type of clinical benefit. You are only stopping at the clinical performance, and that could allow you to invoke Article 6110. In some cases, you can find agreements with notified body where you say, you know, I'm essentially using a well-validated score or a well-validated combination of scores. There is all this evidence from state of the art. I could make a post-market data collection to ensure that you know, the output of my system is not, especially from the safety point of view, suboptimal. So there are really so many different strategies, but they strictly depend on what has been done. If the score is completely new, it's then, you know, it's completely other story. And so it's really impossible to drive one to give one suggestion that works for all. But I mean, the message I want to give is, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do a pre-market randomized control trials. but it also does not necessarily mean that you will never have to collect some type of clinical evidence. So it's probably the truth will lies in between, depending on the type of product that you have.
Exactly, and but you still have the need for providing some data, some proofs, some elements. You still also have to have a quality management system. You have to have a technical file. You have to have all these things. So it's not like just because it's a small calculator that you don't need all these things also.
So, and I think there is often this wrong thinking that everything is always about performance. Okay, so there's this very much focus on performance. So I should achieve this effect or this performance. But you know, there's the other 50% that is safety. So sometimes it's true that based on what has been done, it's very likely that the performance can be achieved. But it's there is always this point of safety, and there is no way to demonstrate the safety of a device without collecting clinical data with those devices. There is a way to build a good chain of reasoning to demonstrate the performance, but the only way to truly demonstrate the safety of a medical device is to put it into the field and to collect data with that device, with that specific device.
We talk also a lot of class 1 medical device. So can one of those calculators, RISCOR or other small software become a class 1?
Not anymore. I mean, there was a big discussion on when MDR came out with the interpretation of Rule 11. Now with the borderline manuals, and so they made it very clear that, I mean, they want to see these tools as class 2A. I think it's really hard to get that as class 1.
And as said, we hear sometimes the MHRA or any other authority that is pinging you and say, oh, you are a medical device, etc. Just to maybe reaffirm, explain that. Usually it's not really the MHRA or the thing that are really looking at your website. It's mainly some other competitors that are calling and say, I am making the effort to make it a class 2A CIMA, but I see this one that looks not. Can you verify that, or this kind of thing? So just to be also careful of that.
It's becoming more and more common. Honestly, I just saw the report of ruling in Germany of a company that sued another one because of wrong classification. So I think it's something that is becoming more common, because I think, I mean, data is power. So I mean, those who spend the time and effort to collect data, then they can really push with that. One thing about MHRA has a guidelines on this type of they call it calculators.
Yeah.
But there was also a discussion direct with an MHRA person in LinkedIn, and it's still sort of bit based on MDD, and for them as well, they confirmed that as long as you have one very simple established calculator, I think they consider that still class 1. But as soon as you start combining things or adding value, then you have to consider whether that's probably going to be a higher class also in that case.
But this is mainly because, as you said, this is under MDD. I suppose when they will change their regulation, they align with MDR, and maybe they will come back to the same thing here. In terms of maybe, as you had also some experience with those kind of things, and is there any kind of big mistakes or pitfalls or things that people are doing or you see often, and maybe we can alert people, be careful of this or be careful, because maybe this is what's happening to other manufacturers?
Yeah, I think there are two things. So the first one is, I think the most difficult part in the clinical evaluation of clinical decision support tool is defining the claims. I think that's the hardest part, because usually it's we leave it very often. So it's like there is this tension between regulatory. So if you read the regulatory part, they try to claim the software does nothing. It's all the responsibilities on the doctor. We don't do anything. We don't do anything to reduce risk class. And then you read the marketing, and the software is the therapy for everything. You know, so something like this is the solution to all the problems. And the point is that it's very, very hard to really to find the truth. So it really requires understanding very, very well the medical field to find that exact point of what can this software truly achieve. Okay, and that's I think is the most the absolutely hardest point in the clinical evaluation of these tools, and where and it's also the point that defines everything, because once you get the right spot, then you can exactly define the strategy. But it's this thing that for manufacturer is the hardest. So really you see these internal purposes that tend to contradict itself, or they, you know, and you spot them immediately because they have these whammy words. I mean, the one I like the most is support. They say this supports the user, but how does it support, and what does it mean? What this mean for the patient? So it's very easy to spot, but it's very hard then to change and to really and this is not because they are it's meant to be malicious to malicious. It's really not trivial. So it's something that requires loads of thinking, and you often in the past these internal purposes were done very fast maybe, and there was not enough thinking about it. But if one gets the right spot, then the rest just follows from it. Which data will you have to collect when, and so on. So that's really point number 2. And I think the second pitfall is this thinking that, okay, I'm dealing with things from the field that have been validated, and I'm done. And this is not true. So even so consider if you do a clinical study and you start using these validated tools. I mean, we had a conversation with the BFM about this. If you take a score that is being used only for a specific patient population, and you slightly change the patient population, their reaction when you're doing a study is, now you first validate the tool with the new population, which sometimes it's a setback. But even like combining two super well-established tools together, it's a non-triviality. So it doesn't mean that you take two things and you put together and you get double. Sometimes you can get less than one, because there are combined factors. There are the output might not be interpretable anymore. So for the user and so on. So really thinking combining is not necessarily better, and combining it's a evaluation risk. So the more you put together, the more likely it is that you will have to collect more data.
It's the same as in laboratories. We have some methodologies to test some viruses or whatever that works, but each time we are asking for test validation to verify that the test that we are using is really capable of giving the proof of that. So it's mainly here the same. We have some calculators, but as soon as it is used with different environment, different things, so let's test first that it's really providing the right things, and then we can then validate that, yeah, it's correct. And I suppose notified bodies, if you are class 2A, will also check this kind of point and verify that it's really used on the right thing, and there is really some tests that are proposed or recommended before the use of this kind of device. Okay, so I think it's really great. I hope this helps a lot of people to understand now more about those clinical decision tools like calculators or whatever, and that, yeah, this helps also to understand that, yeah, this can be medical devices. It is mainly a class 2A, that you have then to be on the market with a CE mark, that authorities can also check on your website what you are saying. So this is important to also look at that. So yeah, there are a lot of things that people, I hope, understood from this episode. Okay, Cesare, so why people should contact you, and what kind of service you can offer to them for related to your activities?
They can come to us exactly for what I was saying. So to try to narrow down exactly the claims for their products, so we can analyze the medical field very carefully and get them exactly into that spot that allows them to get them through the certification. Because without that step, it's very, very hard.
Exactly. And on the show notes, I will put your LinkedIn page and also the For Better Devices webpage, so people can go directly and contact you and look at that. And as we said, you will be at Medica also. I will be also there visiting you. So yeah, if you want to go and see your tool, so it's called Evidence, I think, the software that you are using called Evidence for clinical evidence. So yeah, I really encourage people to go and check that and see, and also meet with Cesare Magri if you are there. So okay, Cesare, it was really a pleasure. Thank you very much, and I wish you a nice day.
Thanks a lot, Monir. Have a nice day. Bye.